Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'm reviewing White Noise, coming soon to Netflix. White Noise is the newest film from Noah Baumbach, and it is coming to Netflix relatively soon. It is a black comedy, and it stars both Adam Driver and Greta Gerwig. And in this film, we see Adam Driver play the father of this family. He is a professor who specializes in Hitler studies, so you know right away that this film is going to be a little bit ridiculous. Movie It really does dive into some aspects of political satire where it comes to American consumerism, anxiety, some of the things that kind of capture the modern world. This movie actually is the first film that is directed and written by Noah Baumbach that isn't based on his own original work. It is based off a very popular novel that came out a couple of decades ago. I've never read the novel, so I don't know how true to life it is, but I have seen with reading some different reactions to this film that it does deviate from it a little bit, especially in its tone. The movie does have some really bizarre juxtapositions between heavy drama and some dark comedy, like I said. And I think that's one of the things that will either make or break this movie for people. Me, particularly, I did enjoy those comedic elements. I think it adds some levity, some very serious situations, and really amplifies the satire of the moment when you can poke fun at just how ridiculous these things are, but still capture some of those messages. I think it works really well in those facets, but for some people, I do think it will be a little bit muddled, especially it being almost 2.5 hours long. I think the cinematography in this film is really well done. There are a lot of really well shot tracking shots that go on. There's a lot of them. This movie kind of has an overbearing amount of those, but I do think they work really well to capture kind of the tone and messaging of the film. Like I said, this movie does have some absolutely ridiculous moments to it. In particular, there's a scene with Adam Driver and Don Cheadle's character giving the merits between Elvis and Hitler and their comparisons with their mothers and how they were raised in this idea of how people are worked up in a frenzy, whether it be by a musical artist or a political figure, trying to drive home the idea of how ridiculous it seems on its face that everything happened during World War II. But then when you look at it in a more practical sense of how everyone has ever been caught up in kind of ridiculous moments and ridiculous frenzy because of one individual. The one thing I will say is that this source material is a little bit older, and it does feel at times like this film would have had more of an impact maybe 5 to 6 years ago. I feel like currently we've seen a lot of these movies that talk about apocalyptic messaging and about the horrors of kind of mob mentality. And I do think those messages are still really important, and the movie does capture them in a really genuine and entertaining way. That both the leads, Adam Driver and Greta Gerwig, were fantastic in this movie. They play some really odd characters. It's quite an oddball character for Adam Driver to play the person that he's playing, but I think he does a good job. You really feel like a genuine connection to these characters, even though they are really bizarre. In particular, the children, I think, have a very comedic quality to them while still being very poignant and very sharp. This movie has a lot of really sharp and stylized dialogue where I think, like I said, for some people, it may turn people off from this movie. Me in particular, I think it was extremely well written and across these important messages and using the tone of the film to kind of elevate that. The movie really is also at its core an apocalyptic end of the world movie. So having that, like I said, that juxtaposition of having a film about a family, more of a family drama against an apocalyptic backdrop is an odd blend, and I do think it does work in most instances, but some it's a little strange. And also having it take place during kind of an apocalyptic pandemic type event, it obviously feels very poignant in today's society and the things that we've dealt with in the past few years. And while, it may seem a little on its nose sometimes when it's pointing out some things involving, masking and things, misinformation, I do think those messages are still important, and I do feel like they feel very timely, if not, like I said, just a little on the nose at times. Score of this film is also composed by Danny Elfman, has done some of my favorite scores of all time. I think, like I said, it adds to that tone of the film. It has like a comedic underbelly to some serious and disturbing messages that are happening. And I think that whimsical nature of Elfman's music works. In particular, there's a really bizarre ending sequence to this movie because the movie really dives into the idea of consumerism and the like American supermarket. And it kind of is the pinnacle of capitalism. And it kind of pokes fun at that throughout the film, particularly with the end of the movie. So overall, if I were to rate White Noise, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. I do think it is one of the best directed films of the year, one of the best acted. I just think that it loses a little bit of its messaging because of the kind of juxtaposition of its nature. Like I said, I personally enjoy it, but I could see how people wouldn't like the constant back and forth, especially with a film being this long and kind of having these separate acts of the movie. It feels like the first, second, and third act are so distinctly different. It almost feels a little jumbled with that tone shift. So when and if you check out White Noise, let me know what you thought about it. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you not like it? I feel like this movie is going to be really polarizing. I think it's going to be a movie that some people really, really like and a movie that some people really, really hate. I really love Baumbach's work, and this is just a little different than what he's done in the past. I don't think it's quite as good as some of his previous films, but it's still a really honest attempt at a really big picture idea and trying to bring this very strange book to the big screen, and I don't know if it works perfectly every instance. So again, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.